Welcome, I'm Kari Odermann. We're broadcasting from UATV studios in the Ukrainian capital. I've got the updates from Ukraine, Europe, and the rest of the world. Let's have a look. The UN has adopted the resolution seeking the protection of human rights in the occupied Crimea. The representatives of 65 countries voted in favor of the document. 23, including Russia, were against it. The resolution includes a call for Russia to end its repressive policy towards the local population in Crimea, as well as a condemnation of the detention of activists.
The reported continuous persecution of Crimean Tatars and persons from Ukrainian-speaking communities. We remain equally worried by the ongoing deprivation of the freedom of peaceful assembly, of association and of expression, and the dire socio-economic situation in these regions. Germany condemns the illegal annexation of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol by the Russian Federation. International regional human rights monitoring mechanism must be granted unrestricted access to the illegally annexed Crimea and the city of Sevastopol.
Following the release of Oleg Sentsov and 4 other Ukrainian detainees on the 7th of September, the released men informed the OHCHR of torture, including electroshocks, threats of sexual violence, suffocation, and beatings during their time in detention. Over 86 Ukrainian political prisoners remain in detention in Crimea and in Russia. And we call on Russia to immediately end this appalling treatment and release all remaining Ukrainian political prisoners.
The Ukrainian parliament has simplified the procedure for removing parliamentary immunity from those lawmakers who have committed a criminal offense. Now, instead of the parliament, this responsibility will fall to the prosecutor general. However, not all political factions supported the idea.
This law created a legal conflict. Now law enforcement agencies cannot open cases against MPs. They need to go to the prosecutor general and ask for his permission. If they are investigating a case and it turns out that a lawmaker is involved, then they go to the prosecutor general, and all the evidence which was collected before they discover the MP's involvement can't be used in court.
It's a question of the Prosecutor General registering a violation in the single register of pretrial investigations. MPs agreed with this precaution, that this data needs to be entered by the Prosecutor General. But if the Prosecutor General doesn't do it, then the person who submitted the statement can appeal this issue in court. The court has a 100% practice of registering such appeals. You can see it at the National Anti-Corruption Bureau. The MPs agreed because the parliament is involved in the appointment of the Prosecutor General.
5 years of captivity and torture. One of the first prisoners of the Kremlin has been held behind bars in Russia since September 2014. Our correspondent met with this prisoner's father.
Petro Vyhivsky is showing letters that are very dear to him. Father and son, you see the words Kirov region are both here and here. 2 of Petro's relatives have been prisoners of the Kremlin. My father was in that region in the 1950s as a political prisoner. He was imprisoned under Article 58 as an enemy of the people. His son Valentin has been imprisoned in Russia for 5 years already. We don't know what he is officially accused of. All the case materials are classified. We don't even have a copy of the sentence. Valentin Vyhivsky was sentenced to 11 years in a penal colony. Kremlin-controlled media have claimed that Valentin was guilty of military and economic espionage. Valentin's father, however, laughs that off. His son was an entrepreneur, and aviation was just a hobby of his since he was a child. He studied it with scrutiny. There were a lot of aviation fans who could be found all around the Soviet Union. In September 2014, Valentin went to Crimea. He was bringing money to his friend that he collected for a surgery she claimed she needed. It turned out the woman was recruited by the FSB. Valentin was kidnapped in Simferopol. His relatives could not find him for more than a month until he resurfaced in the Lefortovo pretrial detention center. I have forgotten what a TV looks like, or a computer, or proper clothing that has colors, or normal food. I forgot how it is to rest like a person, or what a normal bed is. In fact, I have had no life in the last 5 years. Petro says that for a while, letters were not allowed to be sent. The issue was tackled by the consul of Ukraine in Russia.
Йому сказали, цей адміністратор,
The administration told me that Valentin was writing bad things about Russia and that he kept writing the word Russia with a lowercase letter. But then my son promised to write only good things and to write Russia with a capital letter, and they started letting letters pass again. Right now, Valentin Vyhivsky is being held in a penal colony in the town of Kirovo-Chepetsk of the Kirov region. The colony is infamous for its rough imprisonment conditions. His relatives have not been allowed to see him for around 2 years now.
після цього обміну йому там ще погіршили умови.
After the last exchange, they made the incarceration conditions worse. They have transferred him to the upper floor, which is completely empty. There aren't even guards there. He only sees another living soul 3 times a day when he is being brought food and sometimes during walks. Valentin has always said that he will never give up. He exercises and wants to get back home in shape. He also dreams of opening a free cancer treatment center for children. Reported by Olha Volinets and Andriy Tolyarenko for UATV.
Every year before Christmas, Ukrainians living in Poland collect money to buy presents for children whose parents died in the Donbass, were wounded, or are still on the front line. Let's learn more together about this international Christmas tradition.
Hundreds of boxes are already full of gifts. Soon they will be sent to the addresses of children whose parents were killed in the war in the Donbass. Pavlo Yankimchuk fought along the contact line from Stanitsa Luhanska to Marinka. After returning home, he decided to help those whose parents gave their lives for Ukraine.
There's a little boy in Kiev. I've known him since he was 7. His father also died in the east. Every year I bring him presents from here.
The campaign was established by the Ukrainian community in Poland. Years later, it grew into a large project. Activists now from around the globe send money and gifts for the children.
Цього року до нас приєдналися також діаспори з інших країн світу.
This year we were supported by diasporas from different countries. The Ukrainian communities and embassies in India and Lebanon, as well as individual participants from Australia and Canada all helped.
Ми принесли солодощі просто.
We brought candy. This year the gift is modest. Last year I collected gifts at work. I work at a hostel and our employees and guests donated.
As part of the campaign, a charity auction is held to raise funds for the presents. Among those who submitted their personal artifacts to be sold this year were Nobel laureate writer Olha Tokarczuk, singer Oleg Skripka, and the rock band Haidamaki. They sent their books, CDs, and various souvenirs to be sold at auction.
Here we have a fantastic lot from Alexandra Sidorenko, the European champion in professional boxing. When Alexandra found out about our campaign, she decided to support us and the children.
The gifts are selected individually for each child, but everyone gets candy, toys, and books. When the campaign was held for the first time, 900 presents were collected. Last year, there were almost 3,000. Reported by Alexander Kulibaba and Ihor Atonyuk from Warsaw for UATV.
Real events, legends, and myths about Ukraine. A TV show based on historical events has been presented in Kyiv. It was filmed in 11 countries. Learn how Ukrainians have influenced European history in our next report.
Historic events, legends, and myths. The documentary series Ukraine Worldwide combines facts and fiction, reality and authorial interpretation, everything to interest the modern viewer.
Patriotic movies are very relevant. I would put it this way. Professional patriotic films are not always interesting, but interesting films will always be patriotic.
Last year, Ukraine's cultural ministry allocated funds to support the project. The series Ukraine Worldwide was one of the winners in the Patriotic Films competition. In addition to Ukraine, filming took place all over Europe, in countries like Sweden, Denmark, Poland, Austria, and more.
Нам вдалося за 9 місяців.
In 9 months, we managed to complete the first season, 24 episodes, 26 minutes each. These episodes tell the stories of European history, not only the future of Ukraine. They cover the period from Kamyana Mohila, 24 to 25,000 years BC, to 1708, events connected with the name of Ivan Mazepa.
Viewers are guided by the main character, Valeria. She travels through time and studies rock art in Kam'yana Mohyla, goes on a voyage with Vikings, and meets King Arthur.
Це просто я, така собі дівчина Валерія.
I play Valeria. She's an ordinary girl who is interested in finding connections with different countries. She discovers that Ukraine has rich culture and history, which needs to be known and shared.
The series not only talks about historical events, but also shows the impact that Ukrainians have had on European culture and history.
Дуже приємно, що створюються такі серіали.
It's great that such shows are made. I hope that it grabs people of different ages and different educational backgrounds, and they will wait for the next episodes.
The series will be shown on air next year. The team is holding negotiations with Ukrainian television channels and making plans for season 2. Reported by Anna Romanovska for UATV.
In the frozen plains and forests of Lapland, in the far north of Sweden, a famous ice hotel, intricately carved from the Arctic ice and snow, is open for business. It's an icy masterpiece created by builders, sculptors, and artists from all over the world.
Just outside the northernmost town in Sweden, with the temperature well below freezing, an Arctic marvel is taking shape. This ice hotel, constructed from snow and ice, each winter for 3 decades, has opened its doors once again. Delicate details like the chandelier are made entirely of ice drawn from a nearby frozen river. There are 15 individually created art suites made by a team of sculptors and artists who hail from as far away as the United States, Australia and Japan. The suites that greet guests form a dreamlike labyrinth, all built from skillfully manipulated ice and packed snow. Zhao Yong, an artist from Beijing, is channeling the spring in the art suite he's sculpting, with patterns of branches and leaves taking shape, all made from packed snow. As it's winter here, we wanted to make something opposite and highlight spring. That's why we're making lots of leaves. There are a lot of leaves that will circle around the room, as if a spring breeze is blowing through the vegetation. Because if winter is here now, spring can't be far away. In a nearby room, Daniel Rosenbaum, a horticulturalist from Australia, works with Jorgen Westin, an industrial designer from Sweden. The pair are planning a cave-like suite.
Like the idea, I guess, for us is to make it a bit like a snow cave, and so it'll be, imagine like a big block of cheese with lots of bubbles in it. So that's what the idea is here. All these tunnels will end up opening up into these domes.
And the finished product is an icy dreamscape with circular portals between chambers and an intricate sculpture of a giant ant carved from ice. Guests bedding down here are wrapped up in special sleeping bags under thick reindeer hide blankets to keep warm in the cold. But while the temporary ice suites are only available for a limited time, there's an adjacent complex which offers suites year-round.
Oh, it's a huge milestone for us. 30 years ago, we started with a small igloo by the Torno River, and nobody would have ever imagined, I guess, that it's going to be still at this high level after 30 years, and we want to celebrate that with making another unique experience for our guests.
A room in this ice hotel will set you back at least a cool $600. However, for those without a reservation, the spectacular wild landscape that forms the ice hotel's backdrop is free to all those who make the journey to enjoy it.
That's all we have for you this hour. For more information, you can always check out our official website, uatv.ua. And if you're one of those people that can't keep your hands off the screens, at least keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in Ukraine. Look for us and follow us on social media. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, we're there. We're easy to find. Simply search UATV English. For news in English, you don't have to search far. In 2 hours' time, we'll be back with more news. My name's Kari Odermann. Thanks for sharing your time with us.